Hi, Double X. Thank you so much for helping with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi. So my name is Xiangxin, but in Plan, people know me as Double X or XX, and I'm a manager with the L1 care team for both APAC and EMEA. So it's my honor and pleasure to be on this interview.
And it's a pleasure to talk to you. What are some of your hobbies and interests outside of work?
Right. So my hobbies include cycling, strolling. So I'm based in Singapore. We have a lot of park connectors around the island, so it's a great place to enjoy the scenery across all these. They call it park connectors. They are basically routes that you can cycle across the island. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it's like one huge park that's connected, like islands of parks and stuff.
Yeah, so Singapore is a really small country. It's just an island. So the plan was to build the park connectors across the whole island so that there's it's more eco-friendly. People get to cycle more, and less emission and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really becoming like a green island. Yeah.
That's that's awesome. I had to come visit sometime.
Yes, you should. Yeah, we'll be happy to bring you around for food and for look around the island. Yeah.
Now, I had heard that they're very strict about the rules around. Um, there's been stories of uh, foreigners coming with bubble gum and that being treated very harshly. I was wondering if you could shed any insight into that.
Right. So yeah, that's definitely one of the most interesting part of Singapore. It's a very fine country. So fine being a double meaning, where you get fined when you make a mistake. And like for example, the bubble gum, you can't stick bubble gums, used bubble gums onto public areas. You can't throw litter. You can a lot of things that you cannot do. But it's just to ensure that Singapore is a safe country and clean country. Yeah.
Maybe we could take a little briefing to go over the rules before arriving.
Yeah, that's true. It's about like 1,001 rules. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, just stick to being on the safe side. Yeah, just don't litter, and yeah, you should be fine.
Basically, common sense. You're saying.
Exactly.
Be respectful.
That's right.
So I was wondering, Double X, if you knew that NASA was planning to put astronauts on the moon for the first time since 1972.
Yep, I definitely did. So I heard, as when I was young, I heard about the first astronaut that landed on the moon, Neil Armstrong, and ever since, like many have tried to land on the moon after him. Yeah, so I came to know about your project to land on the moon as well, and yeah, it's a very exciting project. So like when you reached out to me for an interview, like I was definitely excited to be part of this journey. Yeah. So yes, I definitely heard about the landing on the moon project that NASA has talked about. Yeah.
Would it surprise you that most of the people that I talk to at coffee shops, on the street, at the mall, these places, and most of them don't know we're planning to send people to the moon?
Okay, that's definitely interesting. I guess the common folks, they wouldn't really read up on all these exciting stuff because they are all so focused on their daily lives. So unless you really go and Google for moon for project then or NASA, then you will get to know about all this information. So yeah, that's not really surprising.
And what do you think about it? People going to the moon?
I think it's a very interesting project. Personally, I feel that we should be more focused on resolving some of the Earth's issues like carbon emission or food shortage, global warming. But of course, being humans, right? One of our nature is to explore, is to be curious. So reaching out to the moon is definitely one of these ambitious projects that humans has always have. And I think it's very exciting to see how we can have this opportunity with the moon landing. Yeah. So watching movies, right, regarding space, as I grew up, there are a lot of things that can happen. You can build a colony on the moon, right? You can grow crops there, like. But all these are just movies. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it actually comes to reality.
And you were mentioning three problems that you thought on Earth that should really, maybe we need to focus on solve a food shortage, global climate change, and I think the other one, did you say emissions or was it something else?
Yep, that's right. Carbon emissions.
Carbon
So I
emissions.
guess that's relevant to global warming. Yeah.
Um, so I just I mean, have you thought about, well, I guess the food shortage thing, that's kind of interesting to me because it's not something that I really see in my day-to-day life, right? I mean, every time I go to the grocery store, it's filled with food, which, I'm really fortunate in that way. I just went to Mexico City and, they also had lots and lots of food. And um, I'm wondering if there's so much a food shortage as there is maybe just lack of distribution of the food that we do make. Like, is it really a question of not being able to produce enough food, or is it a question of not everybody's getting food that is produced? I just
Yeah, I guess that's a very interesting question. Like I would believe that will be the second part of it, where it's the supply, it's the food supply to the various other regions where there's a lack of food resources, rather than the growing of the actual food. Yeah. So that's all my, like, based on my personal opinion. Yeah, but I might not be right on that. Yeah.
but I guess they're in Singapore. Do you see any evidence of food shortage, or is it like here in the US where food is just widely available?
So in Singapore, we are very fortunate. We don't have a lack of food. It's readily available because of the great planning from our government, where we ensure that food supplies comes in from various country. We have a storage to make sure we are prepared for the next couple of years. So when like a crisis that happen, for example, COVID, in this situation where supply is being cut off, right? Or the Evergreen, where the container ship was stuck in Egypt. So this kind of global issues, right? It doesn't really impact us at that level where it cuts off our resources, because we are prepared. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know like Japan has like a storage of rice, like so many, like a year or two's worth of rice, just in case they need it to make sure that the country has rice. Um, I was wondering if you knew what kind of food Singapore stores.
So interestingly, Singapore, we don't store fresh food, but we store canned foods, because those are the ones with the longer shelf life. So in that way, you can ensure that there's a couple of years of storage expiration date, and yeah, so yeah, so that's about it. Yeah, where we have canned food rather than fresh food for storage purposes. Yeah.
That's great. Easier to put on the shelf too. They fit nicely on top of each other.
Exactly.
Um, so the global climate change, that's an interesting problem. Um, I was wondering what you thought of was the solution to it. Like, what should we be doing to fix it?
Oh wow. If I have the answer to it, I guess I will be rich, because I will be able to help all the governments around the world to solve this crisis. But I guess from reading and a lot of researching, it seems that to 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 help with reducing global warming, right, I guess everyone has to play a part, right? Like less use of plastic, or make sure you don't throw all this waste into the oceans and stuff like that, or we don't burn all this garbage. All this will contribute to global warming. Yeah. Or
Yeah,
if we drive less cars, right? If we try to go green and use bicycles, or we use the public transports, if it's more realistic, right? use a public transport, then less cars, then less emission.
That that sounds like reasonable steps.
Yeah.
I think the plastic's kind of an interesting one. I mean, I keep thinking if we develop the technology where we could like take plastic that we throw away and turn it into stuff in our homes, so like you take your used water bottle or used container of detergent, you put it inside this machine, you tell the machine that you want to instead produce like plates or maybe boxes, and then out it pops boxes, and whenever you get tired of those, you put those into the machine and it turns into something else. It seems to me if we had that capability, people would stop throwing away plastic. Instead, they would start picking it up just to be able to make other things out of it.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, if we can reuse that into a different object that we use every day. Yeah.
And so there is so it's not only the Americans that are thinking about going to the moon. China is also talking about going to the moon. In fact, they were talking about sending people to the moon in 2030, 2035, I think. But just last week, they announced they want to make that 2027. And as the Americans slip behind their schedule and China moves up their schedule, it's very possible that China might actually have the first people on the moon in this century. And I was wondering what you thought about that.
Mm. I feel this is like pretty political, right? Because like every country wants to send their people first to the moon. But if we look at it as a humanity, I guess it doesn't matter who goes first. Like even the Russians, they also they are trying to get to the moon as well, or even India. So if China and America, not only in terms of space, but everything they are trying to to go first. Yeah. So yeah, I think to me personally, I don't think it's like a big deal who goes first. Rather than if humanity can make that first step and make it happen, then that's a win for everybody.
Yeah, no, I think that would definitely be awesome. It would be nice to go as a world, as humans, instead of as countries.
Yeah, that would be great.
So when you think about the long-term future of humanity, like 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, do you see humanity still only on the Earth making these little side trips to places? Or do you think at some point humanity has actually expanded beyond the Earth? I mean, Elon Musk talks about making Earth multi-planetary. Jeff Bezos talks about building these huge space structures where people live. I mean, is that just science fiction, or do you think that's really the future we're going towards?
So okay, I haven't been living a really long life, so I'm only before 40 in my age. So but then I've managed to live through like cassette players, disc players, storage. IBM had their first 2 MB
Yes.
USB, right? Those large RAMs, right? And then look at where we are at now, where we have SSDs like 1 TB, 100 TB. So in the short less than 40 years that I've lived, I've already seen the curve where our technology is rapidly expanding. Like we have learned so much and we've expanded so fast. Now we are talking about like flying cars. This is something that was in the past, it was just a dream, but now it's really happening. Like we have drones that can carry people from like taxi from one place to another, right? Like a Uber taxi, but now it's an Uber helicopter, Uber drone. So I believe that in the next 100 years, I think it's possible. It's possible for space travel to be like a common thing. As common as taking a bus from one place to another.
And talking about that Uber taxi, I believe that there's a service that's being worked on in New Zealand, actually, where you have like the flying car, it comes and you get in it, takes you someplace.
Oh
I
yeah,
may have
yeah,
heard
yeah.
about that.
It's being adopted in some countries between cities because the roads are just so congested. So flight is an option just to make sure that you get to another place on time. Yeah.
Wow. Um, have you heard of SpaceX and what they're doing in terms of building the Starship?
So correct me if I'm wrong, SpaceX is a company by Elon Musk,
That's right.
right? And then they set up a base at this remote area, and they chased away all the all the residents, right? They bought the place, but some still stayed back, and then they managed to see. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I did heard about SpaceX as a company, and it's a private company trying to bring their people to space. Yeah, and
But at that place that you're talking about down there in Boca Chica, it's actually in South Texas, about a 7-hour drive from where I am. I've
oh,
been
okay,
there twice, so it's really amazing to look at. But they're
yeah,
building this completely reusable spacecraft that could be used for point-to-point travel. So I could go from Houston to Singapore in like 30 minutes.
is that the one that if they land, it lands in a vertical position,
Yeah.
so it goes up and then it lands perfectly at the same right.
And what you're probably talking about though is their current in production spacecraft called the Falcon 9. And it's not 100% reusable because like the second stage gets thrown away and has to be rebuilt.
Right,
And it's
right.
also kind of small. But this other vehicle is going to be, I think, 9 meters wide. So it's 9 meters wide. It could carry 100 people at a time, and it's 100% reusable. So you just land it, inspect it, fuel it up, and take off again. So the
Is
same
it?
craft could go between Houston and Singapore like 10 times a day.
Oh
So
wow,
with like one craft, you could, have a trip like every hour. You could have a new trip from Houston to Singapore, Singapore to Houston, back and
oh
forth. I mean, could
wow.
you imagine?
That sounds really impressive. Yeah, I believe it's faster, right? Faster than the conventional airplanes.
Yeah, I think conventional airplanes, a flight from Singapore to Houston, it's probably like 20, 30 hours, right? Or at least 20 hours, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
So Singapore to San Fran is about 13 to 16 hours. So I believe to Houston that'll be way longer. Yeah.
yeah, it's about 4 hours to San Francisco from Houston. How about three
Right. So
hours?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
three to
so
four
you're right.
hours.
It's about 16 to 20 hours. Yeah.
So, yeah, so 16. And they say they could be profitable for an equivalent first class airline ticket. So,
And
you
that's not too
know,
bad. Yeah.
yeah. So, for 10, $12,000, you could get there in 30 minutes instead of 12, 13.
Hmm. That sounds really interesting. Like 30 minutes just to reach from Singapore to US. I think, yeah. That's we could have lunch and then I could just fly back.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Is this the one where it flies into orbit and then it wait for the Earth to rotate and then you come back down? Is this that?
Well, the thing is, that there's a common misconception that there's no gravity in space, that if you get above the Earth's atmosphere, you're just floating.
That's what
But
we
it,
learned.
but
That's what we learned.
that's actually not true.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, if you go above the Earth's atmosphere, you'll just fall back down. The thing is, what you need to do is be going really, really fast. So fast that as you fall, you've already moved far enough that the Earth is no longer below you. So you're moving so far fast that you keep falling towards the Earth. And since there's no air resistance,
Then that's where.
you're able to keep
Oh,
going. Yeah. So that like the speed is the important thing.
okay.
To and
I learned something new today. Yeah.
but the reason the astronauts float in space is
Yeah.
not because they're in space, but because they're in free fall. They're like, it's like if there's this plane I went in. I don't know if I showed you the video, but my sons and I went on a zero-G plane, and the plane goes up and then it dives down. And while it's diving, you're floating inside, just like the astronauts do. And
Right. I think I heard about that before. Yeah. I did see a news about it. It
yeah.
allows you to experience the zero gravity, but it's just like because of the free falling and the plane, the way they okay, yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is, what makes you float inside the plane is the exact same thing that makes you float inside the space station. But the
Wow.
difference is, the plane isn't going fast enough to miss the Earth, so it has to pull up.
It's good. Right.
The same thing could happen in a tall elevator too. You get in the elevator, cut the cord, you'll be floating for a few seconds.
So is it true that if you jump off the elevator before it crashes to the ground, you'll be safe?
I
Because
doubt it. I doubt it. I mean, because it depends on how fast the elevator is going. I mean, your
yeah,
difference, plus the top of the elevator is going to hit you. So
oh, yeah, okay. So are you like
I would say if you find yourself in such a situation, just enjoy the ride. Don't think about surviving. Don't stress.
that's
It's not
that's
worth
true,
it.
yeah. So are you excited to land on the moon given the opportunity?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see us land on the moon. The Americans, the Chinese, anybody. I just would like to see humanity spread out and advance and have this view of this unlimited future instead of fighting over limited resources here on Earth.
So what's the first thing you're gonna do if you ever land on the moon? Are you gonna like pluck a mini flag with your name and say, "Hey, I'm on the moon"?
Wow, what would I do if I was on the moon? I think I would
Yeah.
definitely try hopping a few times,
Okay.
and I I might take a rock and see how far I could throw it. Um, I think it'd be kind of cool to play tennis on the moon.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really very interesting. I did read that there's a lot of side effects for astronauts that stay in prolonged periods in space. So eyesight issues, and they're unable to stand properly because of the gravity, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure if we ever land on the moon, then humans have to readapt to the environment.
Yeah, we know how humans are in like one Earth gravity, and we know how humans are in zero Earth gravity. But we really don't know anything about humans between that. On the moon, you'll have 1/7, 1/6 of the gravity is here on Earth. Um, is that enough to keep you healthy, or will you still have the same problems as the astronauts on the space station? It'd be nice to have an answer to that question.
Mm. We shall see, once it happens like 200 years later. Like hopefully like this thing happens way earlier. So at least during our lifetime we can get to see something interesting. I mean, now we already know that space travel is possible, and people are really advancing towards that. So yeah, it's really exciting to see that happening. Yeah.
Now, I know we're right at the 30-minute mark. Did you have a meeting after this?
I do not. So my meeting ended 30 minutes ago. So yeah.
Oh, so if it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
I definitely would, because personally I'm a person that likes challenges. So I did my first scuba dive in Thailand, and I did jump off an airplane. I had a parachuting experience before. So to travel to the moon, right, is something that I would definitely want to explore in this lifetime if possible and affordable.
It's affordable is the key too.
Is the key
Um,
word. Yeah.
so if Elon Musk, actually is successful in starting his million-person city on Mars, and it's like anybody who wants to go, just sign up. Would you sign up?
I would sign up, provided that I'm being given all the risk. Like there's a contract for me to sign. Just make sure that I'm aware of all the risk that's going to be taken. Yeah, I'll consider it carefully. Then I'll take that step. Yeah. If it's still life threatening, then I would reconsider for now, because like there's still a lot of things that I really want to do. So I might not take that as my first priority. So I will wait for it to be more safe, and I will apply it.
That's that's completely understandable. Wait until you hear some stories from people that came back. You know.
Yeah.
because the people over there, they'll want you to come. So they'll say, oh yeah, it's fine. Come here. You'll have fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the people that come back, they can give you the true story.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Come join us. Then like, okay. Yeah, that sounds like a thumbs up. Yeah. I'll be there.
Yeah. Um, uh, yeah. Well, that's pretty much all the questions I had. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
So I don't know if I asked this before. So what's your primary goal for you to land on the moon? Was it like a childhood dream, or was it something that it came up along the way in your life?
Yeah. So whenever I was, you know, in elementary and middle school and even high school, I used to take trips to the Johnson Space Center here in Houston. My dad used to take me. That was neat. Now I'm going to actually be an employee and get to go there with a badge. I'm like so excited.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, exactly. My friends and I used to watch Star Trek all the time, and kind of envision, humanity branching out. And then the computers was also something else we were interested in. So when I graduated from high school, the internet was really taking off. Anybody who knew anything about computers could get a job. Um, and so, I went to go work for an internet service provider and then for a web development firm, and then ended up working for Compaq. And you get married, you have kids, and you just progress with your career like that, right? You're thinking, how can I pay for the bills? How can I pay for the kids' education? You know, and so and also, in the 2000s, we had like the Columbia accident in 2003 with it burning up on reentry. Um, in the 2000s, we had the Iraq War, and there was talk about building a moon base, but it didn't really get funded. Nothing happened. But then in the 2010s, SpaceX started doing its stuff,
Mhm.
and it became really exciting again. And now it looks like we actually might be able to do something that, like, the 2020s might be to space what the 1990s were to the internet.
Yeah.
And that's just really exciting to think about that. In 2030, that trip that I talked about between
Mhm.
Singapore and Houston, uh, you know, we might be arguing over where to get the cheapest price. you know, should we go
Yeah,
to Kiwi, or should you order
exactly.
directly from SpaceX, or
Wow. Wow.
so I mean, going to a trip to the moon at that point might be like taking a trip to Antarctica, or
Yeah.
deep sea diving. It's not something that everybody does all the time, but if you really wanted to, you're like, I could save up money and do it.
Now I'm feeling excited about the moon landing.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I think the 2020s are going to be really, assuming we could avoid war with Russia over Ukraine, and avoid war over China with Taiwan.
Yeah.
So, and and
Oh,
and and no more pandemics.
yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Anyway,
global climate change stays reasonably okay. It doesn't. The oceans don't start boiling. That would be bad.
but I guess, space might really be the thing that unite like humanity. I don't know. It sounds possible. This will be the thing that, people will come together. We will put aside all the differences that, all the countries have, and, we'll work on a common goal, just like, even if it's temporary, it's still like, one united world. Yeah.
It's I mean, that would be great, quite the vision. I think the US and China both see space as a strategic asset,
Oh
um,
yeah.
something that they need to ensure their own access to and limit the other person's access to. So I'm definitely not seeing the coming together that we would
Oh,
hope.
oh man.
Uh,
Yeah. Is it true that like there's a lot of debris in the space because of all the satellites that are being sent into the space, and It's causing a lot of space garbage.
It is. I mean, you got the debris. You have India a few years back did a anti-satellite test. I think China has also done an anti-satellite test just recently. Russia did. And so whenever they destroy their own satellites, they break apart into a gazillion pieces. And
Yeah.
those pieces are still in orbit around the Earth, traveling, going around the Earth every 90 minutes or so.
Oh
And
God.
even a really small piece traveling that fast, will have will cause a lot of damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and then you got Starlink. They're planning to launch 10,000 satellites.
Oh God. Wow. Yeah.
Plus you have the thousands of satellites already up there, and it's difficult. And they're all like traveling so fast, and you
Hope-
know,
Hopefully, when we get to space, right, we won't get collided with the debris.
I know it's a very challenging thing. And plus, the more activities you have, the more chances of accidents. The more
Yeah.
accidents you have, the more debris you have, the more chance of accidents. It's just it's a challenge. And this stuff is moving fast, so it's not like you could just take a garbage bag and start collecting it.
I guess there'll be like new jobs, like every century there's new jobs that come up, right? Like now there are like COVID testers, people that do testing for you. So
Yeah.
next time there's a garbage debris collector, space debris collector, yeah.
The nose swabbers.
Yeah, exactly. You collect debris. What's your job? Oh, I collect debris on the orbit.
Maybe you could have a really powerful laser and like shoot at it and vaporize it.
Oh
So
wow.
instead of it being like a object, it becomes just like gas.
Wow.
And
And then we'll
maybe you could use the sun's energy. You just focus a whole bunch of light, on an object and heat it
no,
up.
and I'm just really worried that that becomes a beacon and we alert the aliens and they start to like, oh, Earth is calling for us, and they will start like, come join.
With all of our radio transmissions, and TV transmissions and stuff, I think the beacons are even sent out.
Yeah. So, right. Thanks for having me on the interview. Yeah, it was really a pleasure being here, having this conversation.
Well, thank you, Devil X, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Right. Thank you. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.